Welcome to Echoes of the Damned.
Echoes of the damned. Echoes of the damned. Echoes of the damned.
When we think about the European witch hunts, our minds drift to the medieval period when fear and superstition ruled over reason. But what if I told you about a place high in the mountains of Austria where the primary victims weren't the stereotypical witches you might expect? No, this castle's darkest chapter involved children, helpless, innocent children who were accused, tortured, and executed. Tonight, we journey into the heart of Austria's most notorious location, Moosham Castle, where history and tragedy collide. The towering castle, also known as Schloss Moosham, rests over the foundations of a Roman fortress. It sits nearly 3,540 feet above the sea level in the Lungau region of Salzburg, Austria. Built as a medieval fortress in 1191, its original owner remains a mystery. By 1285, the castle had fallen into the hands of the Prince-Archbishops of Salzburg, who would shape its bloody future. Throughout its long history, Moosham Castle served as a residence, but during the 16th century it became an administrative seat for the region, and with administration came judgment. Austria, you see, was infamous for its brutal witch hunts. Between 1675 and 1690, the castle found itself at the center of one of the most horrific episodes in European history, the Zauberer Jackal witch trials. These trials were not only a persecution of adults, but they targeted the vulnerable, children, teens, and the homeless. This dark chapter left a mark on the castle, and even today, its walls echo with the screams of those who were tortured and unjustly killed. In total, 139 people were executed during the trials. Out of those, 113 were male. But it's not the gender that makes this story so chilling, it's the ages. 39 children, between 10 and 14 years old, were accused of witchcraft and met brutal deaths. 53 teenagers, just barely out of childhood, also faced the same fate. The youngest was a boy named Hannerl, only 10 years old. The oldest was an 80-year-old woman named Marguerite Reinberg. Can you imagine the terror? They were accused of consorting with the devil. Their hands were cut off, their chests branded with hot irons to mark them as witches, and then paraded before the villagers, a gruesome spectacle of control and fear. Among these gruesome trials was the case of witch Jackal, Paul Jacob Kohler, a young man who was painted as the ringleader of an underground network of witches and criminals. But the story gets even darker. In 1675, a woman named Barbara Collerin, who had been tortured and broken, confessed that her son had made a pact with Satan. Her husband, also tortured, confirmed this horrific accusation. Jackal, a 20-year-old executioner's assistant, was said to have led a gang of beggar children, teaching them black magic and leading them down a path of evil. One of these children, a 12-year-old disabled beggar known as Dirty Animal, claimed under torture that Jackal had supernatural powers that allowed him to turn invisible and command rodents to destroy farmers' crops. Of course, this was nothing more than the desperate ramblings of a terrified child, but it was enough to spark mass hysteria. For those poor souls, the moment they were accused, death was their only escape. Burned, hanged, beheaded, there was no mercy. Their broken bodies still haunt the castle grounds to this day. The authorities began rounding up homeless children, teenagers, and anyone who didn't fit into society's mold. Torture became their method of extracting confessions. The more they tortured, the darker the stories became. Sebastian Ziller, the prosecutor during these trials, was relentless. His favorite question to ask the accused, "Did you know which Jackal?" Whether they answered yes or no, it didn't matter. Torture would follow until they broke. If they confessed, they were guilty. If they stayed silent, they were guilty. It was a trial with no hope of redemption. Jackal had become a figure of pure evil, a phantom who haunted the townspeople, leaving a trail of fear and destruction in his wake. But there was one catch. Jackal was never caught. He became a legend, a symbol of the evil lurking in the shadows. His name still lingers in the dark history of Moosham Castle. Some say he escaped justice, while others believe he met a far worse fate in the hands of demons he was accused of serving. The castle's bloody history didn't end with the witch trials. By the late 18th century, rumors of werewolves began to spread. Dead cattle and deer were found scattered across the castle grounds, their throats torn open in the night. Fear gripped the locals, and the whispers grew. Werewolves haunt the castle. In a panic, more innocent lives were taken, accused of harboring this supernatural curse. But what happened to Moosham Castle after these dark events? For a time, it fell into disrepair until it was purchased by Count Johann Nepomuk Wilczek in 1886. Today, it's privately owned, but it remains open to the public, drawing in tourists, dark history enthusiasts, and paranormal investigators alike. Visitors claim to hear the distant screams of the witch trial victims, and some say they've seen spectral figures wandering the halls, reliving their final moments. Ghost hunters have reported strange phenomena in the castle's torture chamber, voices from the past, flickering lights, and icy touches from unseen hands. Is it the tragic history that lingers within Moosham's walls, or is there something more sinister at play? An intelligent haunting, perhaps? Some of the spirits trapped here seem to be aware of their death, seeking vengeance or closure. Others may be nothing more than echoes, fragments of a nightmare that refuses to fade. Whatever the case may be, Moosham Castle stands as a reminder of the darkest corners of human history. A place where innocence was stolen, lives were shattered, and fear reigned supreme. And as long as its walls stand, so too will the tortured souls who were wronged here. If you ever find yourself in Austria, and you're brave enough to visit, you may just encounter the restless spirits that still walk its grounds. Until next time, my ghoulish fiends, stay safe and keep the lights on.